Welcome everyone, here we are for a new series in Neverwinter, continuing the Drow saga. My Drow, she is standing here in front of Protector's Enclave's central hub, the Palace of Justice that it has, and looking over the statue of Lord Neverember that he so humbly had built for himself. And it is a really beautiful sunset because, in fact, this is the summer event, and so they changed the skies to be a nice little sunset. Very cool. But we are going to go to follow up on a quest and take us to the next series of the Underdark saga. So a while back we did Mantle Dareth, which is sort of the Out of the Abyss storyline combining aspects of RA Salvatore, the author's Drow series, and all of the companions like Bruenor Battlehammer, Driz Do'Urden. All of those folks were involved in that part through the city of Mantle Dareth as a sort of hub. Covered that before. Now what we end up doing, or what we did next, was we went to several Drow adventures and then the Northdark Reaches, which was an area filled with myconids. And we did sort of this large quest about solving corruption, and we got a cool set of weapons and what was sort of like a magic item quest, which was interesting. Now we're going to go visit the city of Menzoberranzan, which is, this map is sort of artificially made, but the idea that we're going to go there. So cool, that's a neat idea. To do that, we're going to go talk to Sergeant Nox, which is a character created for the Neverwinter game. Kind of cool. Sergeant Nox is sort of the head of the forces that protect the city, and he's given us a lot of quests. And he does have two quests. One of them is the second one we'll take later, but we'll start with Whispers in the Dark. One of my most decorated soldiers received a strange missive this morning, one bearing the symbol of Braeryn Earth is an organization we've run into a little bit in the Neverwinter storyline. It's not like super obvious kind of what it is, but in general we know is it's a mercenary group. And we know that Jarlaxle, a Drow, is involved with it. We met Jarlaxle in Icewind Dale, maybe in some other areas, and certainly as part of the other Underdark campaigns. Requested us, the hero of Neverwinter, by name. According to instructions, you're to travel to the cliffs overlooking Menzoberranzan discreetly due to political unrest. Seek out a Drow named Jarlaxle by Enray, and he will explain the rest. All right, cool. Let's go do that. So we will travel there, and we're going to go now to the cliffs of the Starless Sky. Okay, Starless Sky, kind of cool. And this is kind of an interesting thing. If we look at the map here, it's sort of got this curving Underdark area we're traversing, these tunnels that we're going through. And the idea is, what's interesting is later there'll be a weekly quest, and you do it in reverse, which is kind of, I guess, makes sort of sense. So you're not just repeating it, you're doing something new. So we've got a little campfire here where we rest, and we get to talk to Jarlaxle.
Hail and well met.
Yeah, an interesting time. Why am I here? And this is a good example to me, or maybe an example to me, of what I consider a bad quest, where there are no real interactions for me to have, and I'm not really being told what I'm doing, so that it sort of unfolds as a mystery. I'm here to save the city. Well, okay, what does that mean? And the way is quite treacherous. What is this place? We call it the Cliffs of the Starless Sky, and by they I mean I. It is a dangerous, really rarely trod road into Menzoberranzan, so we're doing a secret way into this Drow city. It'll take us here without anyone knowing we're entering the city. So we got to get in without anyone knowing we're coming in. Many ways in. This is the only one I feel certain of secure. It will take us to a secret hideout. Why is it important no one knows we're here? Knowledge is power in Menzoberranzan that is triply true. Better that only I know you're here. Okay, let's go. If you're going to do this kind of thing, boy, you really want to deliver on it over time, because it creates a sense of mystery that really better pay off, because you don't know what you're doing and why. So immediately we see here's some Duergar. Duergar often are denizens of the Underdark. They're sort of like, they're the deep dwarves that are evil, and they are sort of like twisted dwarves in many ways. And so you see them in these kinds of settings working with with Drow often. Sometimes against them. They also will fight against deep gnomes and other good races that live underground. So we find them immediately. We don't know why, and Jarlaxle isn't going to really tell us, but, I guess I think the idea is that they're just kind of denizens of the Underdark, and that's it. So nice details. I mean, first of all, cool looking caverns. Like that's neat, really neat looking. Sometimes areas that show that, there've been humanoids who've been active, but otherwise some like cool fungal and crystal growths that light up the place. Sometimes you can go like on either side of a column, so you can choose which way you wanted to go. While we're walking, we can talk a little bit about our friend Jarlaxle. He's really an interesting character. First introduced in the Drizzt novels. We're going to fight our first boss here of 3, Urmram the Watcher. So looks like he is like ahead of the Dwergar that are under here. So we'll fight him and dodge, and he's not particularly... of the bosses, he's the easiest one, which makes it funny when you fight him in reverse, because he's, like it ends on the easiest fight. But yeah, so we'll just kind of take him on and try not to be on fire too often. So Jarlaxle. Jarlaxle is a drow from House Baenre, one of the main houses of Menzoberranzan. Menzoberranzan has, I forget how many houses. It has a certain number of major houses and then a certain number of minor houses. And we are coming out of this like kind of cliffs that have this like almost like an aurora borealis type effect. So I guess this is our starless sky. And here we see the city of Menzoberranzan. And we saw this once before in one of the cutscenes and kind of weren't sure what it was. But now we get to see really is Menzoberranzan. And we can talk to Jarlaxle a bit. The home I wish I never had, but what a sight from this high vantage. Okay, so he's a little emotional there. What makes Jarlaxle somewhat interesting is he has changed over the years a fair bit. Initially, he comes across as more of a fighter assassin type, kind of like his sometimes compatriot Artemis and Treri. They oppose Drizzt Do'Urden, they're foils to him, but Jarlaxle becomes a more interesting character and shows both good and bad. Like a mercenary who plays both sides, he does a fair amount of that up front, but then actually kind of becomes better and wants to improve the city. But that's later on when he becomes friends with Drizzt Do'Urden and friends, allies. Friends might be a little strong. And I haven't read the latest novels. I can't tell you what it's like in present day, but at least in parts that I had read, they do interact and help one another, save one another, things like that. They save each other's lives. They do things that are in the other person's benefit, not just for their own gain, even though they have fought and opposed one another. And their history is interwoven from the beginning and interwoven with the campaign things that we've done. I'll do this while I fight these giant spiders and some goblins. So goblins riding spiders, kind of cool, for an Underdark thing. We got a little chest we can take out here. So Jarlaxle, when he was born, he was, I forget what order of his family, but the whole idea was that due to his kind of birth and being a male, he is to be sacrificed to Lolth. And so I forget if it's his mother, the matron mother, the head of the house, or if it was another person in his family, but someone's job is like, okay, sacrifice the kid. Yay. And they go to do it, and the knife will not penetrate his skin. And that, of course, puts them all on edge, because what does it mean? Did Lolth do this? And in fact, not only does it not penetrate his skin, that when they try to force it, it sort of bounces back, or I think maybe it's a magic item. It like sort of goes back and it takes out, I think one of the eldest son or something like that. And so kind of like Lolth gets a different sacrifice in essence. And the thought is, okay, the matron mother thinks this guy's going to end me someday. Like, this is not auspicious in a good way. This is, like prophetically terrible that someday I think he's going to oppose me and be the death of me or my undoing. So she's quite wary of him. And maybe because of that, he becomes quite independent and he forms his own mercenary group, though he could, arguably have done many other things, to kind of make his way in the Drow city. He becomes this leader of this mercenary gang that he founds. He doesn't just join it, he makes this group and becomes quite the player and is able to sort of be different than most people. So this is kind of fun. We're fighting a flail snail and it begins healing itself when we do a certain amount of damage to it. So then we got to wait for the healing effect to end, and then we can attack it again. Flail sails are really cool creatures. They come from the Fiend Folio, which was made in England. So it was British work, and it has wild things like the Flumph, which I should actually change back to my Flumph companion for this video. So Umyaros, the shelled one, has kind of neat ideas. It sort of slithers through. It drops this kind of like acid goo off of it from its mucus. Neat. I like it. It's a very cool foe. In the actual D&D game, it also reflects spells. This game doesn't really lead to spells versus not spells, so they just had it kind of heal back the damage you do for a while. But once we defeat it, we're done in this area. Okay, so yeah, flail snails, awesome. Back to Jarlaxle. He becomes a mercenary. He plays both sides against the other, and he very much is different than what Drow society typically allows for a male. He's far more powerful in this female-dominated society because of the way he plays sides against each other in Menzoberranzan, and he profits from anything bad that's happening in Menzoberranzan, right? Bad things happen. He can sell weapons and information and so on to the other side. So he loves it when the city's doing poorly. Later, he changes that. He leaves the city and kind of feels like he escapes it. And in so doing, a secret door, that's kind of cool. Just a slight glimmer can reveal it. So when now one thing that's cool, I'll just stop here and say, so we're on the secret door and there's a secret tunnel through, which allows us to bypass some foes. When they flip the map, the secret door doesn't help you at all. You actually still face all the foes. The way it's set up, the foes, you have to come here, and so therefore you face the foes anyway. It's really kind of silly, but oh well. But at least for the one time you play it in the correct order, it works, and it gives you a little treasure chest. So Jarlaxle leaves the city of Menzoberranzan. He goes to Calimport in Calimshan and has many adventures there that involve Artemis and Trary and Drisduard and so on. Sort of like almost loses control of the Brigand Earth and all kinds of stuff like that aren't necessarily super interesting unless you are reading the rest of the stories and the reasons why all of this matters. But what it all is it means that Jarlaxle goes back and forth between a number of different possible courses of action he could take, and it leads to him being more of a neutral person and someone who can ally with heroes and who cares about the city. So he starts wanting Menzoberranzan to work correctly and for Drow society to work correctly. He's got a sort of stake in the way the city develops and prospers and so on. So that's kind of cool. Nice origin story. When if we think of this from the Dungeons and Dragons perspective, a thing that's cool is when your NPCs show growth, right? And when they can be enemies but then allies, which is a very hard thing to pull off because usually characters just murderize whatever they find. But if you can have a reason why you have a foe that maybe is not in combat situations, but then starts opposed and later finds reasons that hey, I want to actually save the city. I don't just want to profit, and you guys are the key to doing that. I want to work with you. Then that works. And that is kind of what's going on here, as we'll find out, is Jarlaxle, who's fighting here at our side. He wants us involved because he can't always trust everybody who are Drow. So to get to this city, he kind of needs someone different, a proven hero that is not part of the fabric of society. Looking out on this city, we can see that big tower. It's a kind of clock tower that changes how it glows during the day so that you can mark the passage of time. It's kind of a cool concept. It's magical. I think it's part of the I forget what the mage school is right now. The anyway, I know some out there will remember what it is, but anyway. So we've made it through here, through this special area, and we arrive at a place known as the Whispering Post. So the idea is, if we look at the map now, if I just pull it up here as if I'm going to travel, there's this magnifying glass that's looking at this area of the map and zooming in, and you see this. There is this Whispering Post that is above a cliff. And then there are these different districts of the city that we're going to play in over time. And there is another rift here. It's sort of like levels upon levels. So there's a higher level here where the Whispering Post sits. And then there is down below a rift called the Clawrift, which separates parts of the city out. This is a noble district, and these areas are kind of like trade and low districts. So we come here to this new location. We've never been here before until now. And we see some different people, but we're going to go talk to Jarlaxle, the mercenary. All right, we've completed our quest. Not easy to reach. That's what makes it valuable. Welcome to Menzoberranzan. And we can ask some questions. What is breaking to Earth? You know, he kind of hedges a bit. Oh, we're mercenaries and spies and soldiers and scouts, commoners and houseless nobles, network for trade and information, family of choice rather than blood. So, you know, he's comparing that and contrasting it to the houses of the Drow that are typically women-led, all family, and they fight all the others. And this is a different kind of group. What side is it on? On our own, you could say, but perhaps we're on no one's side, really. War is foolishly expensive no matter who wins. We would rather stop the war before it begins, and I believe we still can. So you see, again, that difference, right? No longer trying to just profit from war, but rather stop a war, whatever this war is. Tell me about the city. Oops, I pressed the wrong thing. Let me do that again. Tell me about the city. It's a city of beauty and of death. Order only through chaos. It is a spider's web waiting in the darkness to ensnare the unwary. I am from this city, and though I do enjoy traveling the rest of the realms, I always find myself returning. The matron mothers believe this city is their web, yet I often find myself at its center, playing its silken strings. Yeah, that's his job, right? He's kind of like the master spy of the city, kind of trying to slip between the shadows, gather information, and make moves that secure power. On the surface world, this has led him to living in Calamsham, which he later flees. But he ends up in Luskan often, and Luskan, which is a city, it's the next big city to the north along the Sword Coast from Neverwinter. And it's kind of the last one before you get to Icewind Dale in the frozen north. So Luskan is a huge trade city. It's a city of pirates. It's at times been ruled by the Netherese and by all kinds of other entities. Mages, the tower from the... If you remember in Icewind Dale, if we covered those videos, or if you know, familiar with the concept of the Arcane Brotherhood, they ruled the city for a while. But Jarlaxle helps manipulate events so that the pirates, again, control the city, and he controls the pirates. So Jarlaxle controls Luskan in many ways. So yeah, he's very tied to the city. The other thing is, in the novels, he goes off and discovers Drow who are secretly living separate from these groups and are not controlled by Lolth. They live in a society that's healthy and good, and so they themselves are good Drow. They don't really talk about that here, but that's just kind of interesting to know. All right, so now what are we going to do here? Meet with Nuri Bayan. Oh, this is part of another quest. We'll get there later. There's a war brewing in Menzoberranzan. For now, it is so. This is finally our purpose. Why are we here? There's war brewing in Menzoberranzan. For now, it is quiet, bubbling beneath the placid surface, only occasionally spilling over into direct conflict. Unchecked, it will not stay that way forever, and I fear the damage such a war would cause should it become a civil war. I've called you here not to win this war, but to prevent it entirely. To that end, meet with our friend, Mal Avosel Amvas Tol. She will direct your efforts for the time being. So, okay. Let's, go check that out. I'm not that person. That's our friend Imbos, who's been through like 3 different Drow campaigns, 4 maybe. So we'll get to talk to Imbros later. But instead, we're going to meet here with Voseli. Yeah, Voseli. All right, so... some fear war will soon envelop Menzoberranzan. The war has already begun. Come, soldier, to the cause of the Blaspheme. I don't know what happened here. Somehow it's like Jarlaxle's like prevent a war, and now you'll see we're going to do like guerrilla warfare stuff. We're going to do totally guerrilla warfare stuff, and it's really kind of bizarre because it doesn't make sense to me that we're doing that. So who are the Blaspheme? In case we forgot last time, these are the people who were punished by Lolth, turned to Driders, but they were saved, returned to Drow form, and stand against her forever. And they're called blasphemous because they blaspheme against the teachings of Lolth. You were a Drider? And yeah, don't ask me any more about it. Before, who were you? I was a weapons master, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So then, what is the Whispering Post? The idea is this place is like somehow the wind carries whispers. So it's sort of like the idea of like there's a famous place in the Capitol building for the United States where you can stand and hear in this one room things that are spoken elsewhere. And there was a time when people had exploited that to hear secrets. It's that kind of concept that somehow up here, maybe magically, you can hear things whispered down below. Stenchstreets is in the Braeryn district, the underbelly of Menzoberranzan, and that there's always power in the masses in the streets. There are some Driders the nobles look down upon. What are the sides? On one, there are the Blaspheme, those who call Lul for what she is, a demoness, a destroyer, a plague upon the world, and on the other are her loyalist scum who would follow her ways of chaos and ruin into the depths of the abyss itself. So we start seeing more and more that this now is not about corruption of Myconids, like the last campaign is. This is going to be a campaign that's about the Drow society and the splinter between the Drow. And it's really hitting on some of the changes that were made to Drow to sort of show them as more complex peoples, right? And I think this is done pretty well here. Heard any rumors and, stuff is happening. Our cause is gaining strength, blah, blah, blah. All right, so our quests are rally disgruntled commoners in the Braeryn district. So Jarlaxle says, make peace, not war. And this is like, hey, get them riled up. Okay. Then we have speak with Aleandra, my sister-in-arms, Aleandra. And then defeat loyalists riding lizard patrols. So literally attack the guards that are riding lizards. So much for no war. Go talk to his friend that he direct us to. And Alphastream says... it will take more than swords to win this war, and that is where I and you come in. To win influence within the Stenchstreets, we must win over the residents of the district. So some quests that are going to be along those lines. And we can ask, and they were a Drider. She was made whole again. We were sisters of House Alphastream in the beginning. She was the weapon master, and I was less impressive. Blah 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 blah. What do you think of the Whispering Post? Yeah. Any place with a name. It's kind of fun. Any place with a name is a place that our enemies can find. This is useful for now, but I fear we're becoming too attached to it. Okay, so yeah, there's just some... and so the whispers here are interesting. So they can only whisper on certain districts, which is interesting. So they can't hear everything. And she thinks that Lulth actually made this place and is manipulating the whole thing, which is very Lulth based. We'll talk about Lulth a little more in some other sections. What do you think of the Blaspheme? We're fighting for existence. The Loyalists, they're, chasing the power that Lulth gives and conformists and so on. Heard any rumors? The Loyalists are brutal. Okay. So there we go. We can also look here, and it gives us some lore on the houses of Menzoberranzan. So hierarchy of Menzoberranzan is strict. Non-Drow are beneath the Drow. Commoners are beneath the nobles. Nobles rule the city. Within the nobility, there's an additional hierarchy, that of the houses of Menzoberranzan. Nobles each belong to a house ruled by a matron mother. Houses have their own compounds within the city, built on, in, or among the many stalagmites and stalactites that form the city's landscape, which is always really cool. You can have, battles inside of stalactites or stalagmites. Larger compounds or better locations are indication of status, as is the size. The houses themselves have a strict ranking, with the first 8 houses forming the ruling council of the city. And these houses are constantly trying to fight each other to be the top of the heap. Now we go back to Drizzt having... Oh, I think that's just my old quest. Yeah, the quest we'll take in the future, which I'm going to try to remember not to take. So now we've gone through here, we can travel to the district itself. And here we see the first district opened up, the Braeryn district. We get a nice kind of intro showing us that kind of glowing pillar clock in the distance, the cool houses with the neat... purple works so well with the Drow. It is such a neat kind of aspect. And we see that RA Salvatore helped write this story just as he did the previous one. From here, we can see what's supposed to be Stenchstreets. So the idea is that, you have some Drow impressive dwellings, but then also these sort of like ramshackle structures that are around. And we see that already we can see some foes in the form of Drow enforcers and loyalists and things like that. We have some quests that we have to do. You can see the kind of layout of the city. And in fact, this line here is a line separating 2 neighborhoods. So we'll do some questing in the second neighborhood as well. But we are supposed to defeat loyalist lizards. or lizard patrols, rally commoners and save harassed commoners. We'll also see a neat feature of this campaign. And I always like it, creating subsystems like this can be really neat. It creates different play experiences, even if they're not perfect. So here you can see that there's this red bar, and this is showing that a lockdown is an effect. So as heroes, different players did things, the place went into lockdown. And now these Driders are patrolling around, and you can take them down, and then it lifts the lockdown and goes sort of to the other mode of play, which is kind of cool. If you saw my Castle Ravenloft video with the night versus day, this is a little bit of that kind of concept. There are mechanical reasons why the players want to take down the Drow to get certain rewards, very cool rings, which I'm wearing already as gear, given to me by my other characters. But yeah, you get to see kind of, how cool this is. The houses look really neat, and then this kind of ramshackle areas of the commoners. The clock, glowing tower off in the distance. And what we get to do, and we get, some information here about of course it went away. I wish they would really fix this bug. So the Braeryn district, the lowest district of Menzoberranzan in stature if not physical location, largest population non-Drow, mostly former slaves who escaped their houses or became dispossessed. Everywhere in Menzoberranzan is dangerous, but usually its hazards are less obvious, blah, 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 spies and assassins. And what we get to do is come over here and we just see some disgruntled commoners, and we basically are like, yeah, go on, be mean to everybody. And, sort of silly, but that's the way it goes. And we just have to talk to a few of them like this, and they will go off and start yelling at them, and we kind of pushed them towards that. We can always run around. We can also run around here and see some other kind of neat things. I'll do a couple. One is I'll go in this area, and we can visit one of these orbs that are often in different parts of the game that show you kind of cool cutscenes. It gives you a nice visual of what the city looks like, right? Totally dope. Really cool looking. That's a guard post there on the left. Kind of some of the area we went through before. So it just shows us the Braeryn district, and there are, of course, orbs in different areas. There are 3. They always come in 3s. And so now we'll race down this way, and I'm going to see whether we can find one of those. Here they are. A riding lizard patrol. So they are going to take us on. They start mounted. As we defeat them, they fall off, and then we fight them separately, which is kind of cool. Got to be a little careful that I don't summon the other. Yeah, I did. I summoned the guys inside the guard area. So now I get to fight all of them. But that's fine. So yeah, we have to, the way you saw me rally those commoners. I can't talk today. I should probably do this video in Spanish. The way we did that, we got to do more of that. The way we defeated these lizard riding guards, we get to do that. This is the inside of the guard post. Kind of cool. Dig it. And I think, let's see, do we have any other quests? Oh yeah, there'll be some harassed commoners, which we'll see in certain areas. Sometimes they're inside these guard areas, but I don't see one there. But yeah, as we defeat some of these groups, there will be people sort of tied up or not tied up. These are people who are being harassed by the groups. Hey, look, it's another patrol. I'm doing the wrong thing, using the wrong powers. But yeah, that's kind of the concept. Do this enough times, and we will have that quest down. So I'm not going to make you watch all of this. You get the point of what it's like to fight some of those guys. And then we can see where I'll try to find an example of helping the commoner. There we go. So you see there are these guys sitting out here. These are like troublemaker guard dudes. And when we take them down, and we can kind of go and talk to this person and be like, hey, sorry they were causing trouble. Join us. Be part of the uprising. And that's the concept. So yeah, those are the key quests. I'm going to do these, and then we'll get a new set of quests and continue from here. All right, so we did a few quests leading to a new chain of quests. We talked to Voseli and Vastol, and what does she tell me? New quest. Check supply caches in the Braeryn district. Our influence in the district grows. Where the loyalists made the mistake of keeping their power out in the open, we will instead keep ours well hidden and protected. To this end, we have set resource caches through the district. The caches must be checked periodically. Go into the Braeryn district and check on these supplies. Okay. This will be weird because we're going to find that they're just like soldiers standing all around them. So it's like, I don't think they're very well protected, but I'll take your quest. And Jarlaxle, our friend, has another quest. A discreet oh, that's that is the other one that we're gonna do later, which tough to do. I'm just gonna keep forgetting and accepting it, but we'll save it for the next part of the quest. Okay, so we've got I think we have several missions, right? I know the other thing we need to do is we need to talk to our friend here, and she will give us another quest. Aleandra. Voseli sent me. Greetings again. Our influence in the Braeryn district is growing, but it is difficult to know how much effect we are having. You've proven adept at moving around the district without attracting much attention. So I'd like you to use that talent once again. Listen in on what the common folk are saying and on the loyalists who patrol the Stenchstreets as well. Once you've gathered enough information, report back. This is one of these quests that drives me up the wall. You said this place can hear things. Why am I going to sit on park benches to listen in? This makes zero sense. And I wish this was just a Neverwinter thing, but this happens in Dungeons & Dragons adventures all the time. So I guess kudos to you for kind of recreating that, but it's really, really wacky. Okay, fine. This is, however, the easiest quest for all of us to do, as you will see. We simply go down this central path here, and we sit on a park bench. We sit there and we eavesdrop, and you'll see a little bubble comes up to tell us what it is that they hear. And it's like, oh, okay. The Stenchstreets always smell of fear, but it seems thicker these days. Great. That was pretty neat. Let me check my levels. Yep. Okay, that is fine. Give you a little more soundage. Okay, it's a district lockdown, so that'll make the quest a little more interesting since we might run into the Drider patrols. We eavesdrop again on another group by just sitting there totally chill, just an adventurer sitting next to a bunch of common folk. Same exact quote. That happens sometimes. I think it's just a random table and you get one. Here we go. Another group, and you can see they're like Loyalist Guard, Loyalist Noble. So sometimes it's employees and sometimes it's people who are kind of there. Used to be we could walk through here without trouble. Now it seems there's knives in every shadow. And then you see there the Drider patrol. So I will go over to the side here and like check a little. There could be a boss here in this position, but there isn't. Let's see. My other quests are going to be to check the supply caches. So we could do one of those right now to see what we want to do. They kind of have a smart way of doing these quests where they reuse the same areas but for different things. But what's tough is you have to like look. It's not easy to tell like, okay, that's not one of the ones that has the little box next to it. So it's not a supply cache. I can't check that one. I find that a bit annoying. This is true of the zone after this as well. So it's like you get like 2 zones in a row where you're really trying to like peer carefully to see if you can figure out what is happening. Okay, we got 2 quotes at the same time, but we have now listened for trouble, and ear to the ground is complete. I'm going to check my tracker to see how far we're not very far along, so that will not complete things. To see another patrol of that type. But okay, so we need to do this quest where we, running past those guys, find these supply things and check in on them. Not that guy. Here we go. So you see there's kind of like a wooden thing in the background there. That's what we're talking about. And we are doing that. So we will take care of these foes, and then we come here and we check to see if it's okay. What do you mean is it okay? You had a bunch of like evil dudes standing next to it. I think it's been found. Like I didn't even have to go fight. I could have just looked and told you that it's not okay. I don't know. I don't understand these quests that well. But okay, so it goes. And we're supposed to do a whole bunch of them. So just, run around and do that. Let me see what other quests I have. I think that's it. So I don't think you need to see me do all these crates. You can see me do one more, I guess. And then I will just go and wake you up when there's another quest. But these 2 quests fall into the non-stellar category as a video game quest. Now, I will say ear to the ground is not a bad idea if, like, if there were areas that somehow, like it said that it was a little limited in what it could capture, if there were areas that they couldn't hear and they sent us in a dangerous mission to learn or like to negotiate and learn more, that might be kind of interesting in some way. But here it just sounds like you're giving me an excuse to do a thing in a video game, but I'm not really doing something valued. So, all right, we will check in again in the future once all these quests are done. Okay, here we are. We can turn in our quests. We have listened in. Good to see how our actions are affecting our foes. Loyalists fear us. Our influence surpasses their own here. No, but okay. When the war comes, we'll drive them from the district entirely. You said we were avoiding war, but or maybe it was Jarlaxle anyway. All right, so this has helped. Secret supplies, fine addition to the cause. And now we get into what is kind of a storyline quest. Speak with Jarlaxle. The war effort is in better shape now than it was when you came here. Thank you for that. We've gained much influence in the district. Loyalists have lost more. Where the war would begin in earnest, I have no doubt we would sweep them from the district in short order. But there's more to this war than the battle on the streets. Let's go talk to Jarlaxle and see what is up. Senior Jarlaxle. Okay, I should break immersion. By the way, isn't this cool? Look at this. Speaking of immersion, I can't jump over the edge, but that is really neat. So, very cool. Though I think with that many walkways, somebody could spy on us. It's a little dangerous to me, but hey. Oh, yeah, we also did... I think that's just turning in the quest the other person gave us to talk to Jarlaxle. Loyalists are not just sitting back and allowing the Blaspheme allies to destroy them. We believe a particular loyalist, Malagdoral Armgo, is seeking something to decisively turn the tide. Okay, so we've got a little more quest here. If you remember, this thing kind of started off a little kind of slow, like, hey, follow me through this tunnel. We don't know what's going on. We don't know why we're doing what we're doing. And still, it's a little weird, like I'm fighting a war, not fighting a war, and then it's like, oh, wait, somebody is involved. This Malagdoral Armgo is seeking something to turn the tide decisively. So we get some general quests, defeat Drow summoner patrols in a new district, and collect missives from Drow loyalists, which is just like information they're going to drop. Not very interesting. And then we get this part. Meet with Nuri, Baenre, and Narbondelin. My cousin Nuri has gotten herself into trouble of some sort. She was permitted to study at sorcery rather than become a cleric of Lolth, so I imagine it has something to do with magic. She was scant on the details, but I wish to send aid her way. Think you're up to the task, Lyandra? Sure. Okay. I will do that. And then we also get from here some weekly quests, which is nice. It speeds up progress a bit. So if we do a bunch of different things, it adds up to %, and we get to turn it in. I don't know that really has a D&D counterpart. Like if you do 3 tasks, I'll reward you, I guess. Something like that. Similarly, this one is for the heroic encounters. It's just a way to encourage that you do all the types of content that are out there in the campaign. That's all reasonable. You can see I have a weekly progress thing. I have here like different checks where I get various rewards. I mean, that's somewhat parallel to what a tabletop game would do, but not entirely. And then there's also sort of like, this is sort of your leveling up. And what's weird about Neverwinter MMO is you hit level 20 really quickly, and then you just stay at level 20. And you're just endlessly like improving your gear, and the content is endlessly improving. And I have all kinds of discussions on these kinds of subjects. Like D&D is almost the opposite. It's like most people play at very low levels and kind of never get to the high levels. Should it be? Someone asked just the other week on the podcast Mastering Dungeons that I co-do. They said, should it be that when you play D&D, you get to level 20 really quickly and then live there? And I was like, wow, that's really interesting there, because video games do that all the time. It's like, oh yeah, and it's true. And here we have that. So we can get that sort of like endlessly leveling up through what's called boon points to kind of enhance your character further in sort of small ways. That's interesting. You can see we go back and forth here. Now we've got these deliver supplies and defeat Drow loyalists to general kill everything. All right, so we did not get a special story quest. We just got more of these kinds of weekly, kind of endlessly repeating quests. But you haven't seen these before, so let's at least kind of start some of these off. So one of them that's really kind of easy, it's gratifyingly simple, is that you just kind of go over to random people and you give them food. You just deliver supplies. So it's one of those goodwill things. We are running this sort of guerrilla warfare thing. We deliver off a little package of supplies when the bad guys aren't looking. And, or even they might be looking, but they're not very observant because we're out of their aggro range. Oop, those guys, however, would hurt us. And we come over here and we just kind of give supplies. And it delivers a little basket of goods, and we just go around. We do that a whole bunch of times, delivering baskets of goods. All right, so while that's going on, what else do we have? Defeat Drow Loyalists. That's a general kill people. Drow Demon Summoner Patrols. A little more interesting, and it takes us into the new district. We also have, what else? I think collect them. Yeah, just deliver supplies. Okay. So we'll go up towards... Oop, there's the Drider House Captain. I'm going to run away because I'm not going to sit there and solo that thing. It'll take forever. All right. So now we're going to go up into the new district. So if you remember, this was like the Stenchstreets. And the idea here, the lore of it is, you know, folks that are in this kind of situation where they need me to deliver supplies badly. Now we get into more of, I think it's supposed to be more of a business district. I'm not entirely sure. Actually, I should look that up. I think that's what it is. Let's say, oh, good, it'll tell me. The Duthcloim district, also called Manyfolk, is the melting pot of Menzoberranzan. Surrounding the bazaar, it contains many of the merchant houses as well as some of the only lodging for visiting merchants from other cities in the Underdark. Of all the regions of Menzoberranzan, Duthcloim is the one that most resembles the cities of the surface world, full of people simply going about their business, living their lives. But as ever in this city, there is more to Duthcloim than meets the eye. Many of the greater houses, as well as organizations interested in trade of both goods and information, such as Braeryn, who we're kind of working for, sort of maybe, have spies and secret hideaways throughout the district. Duthcloim is the beating heart of Menzoberranzan, and all the powers of the city have connections here. And you will see this is really cool looking. So it kind of has this like Victorian, Gothic-y Drow feel of like a happening European city kind of thing, and like neat squares, but the architecture, I mean, just cool. You know, this was sort of deliberately downplayed, right? With a little more of this sort of like natural things woven in, some decent houses. But now we get into really like it looking a lot, you know, very, just really cool, really awesome. And I love the way they weave the elements together. I mean, hats off to the art team, right? You got these kinds of like giant mushrooms growing on the sides to remind you that you're in the Underdark. And this is the kind of thing that when you're a dungeon master, like bringing in those details, right? Like saying like, here's this kind of natural rock end and then the house embedded into it and huge mushrooms coming around it. That is neat stuff. And then what we're supposed to do is we're supposed to actually find dudes like this demon summoner. So, you know, we start attacking him. Guess what he's going to do? You guessed it. He summoned a demon, a Molten Zithar. And so we have to just take down like 4 of those folks. There are other demons about. There'll be a quest, of course, to kill demons because there's a quest to kill everything. But, you know, right now what we have to do is just take down normal dudes. That guy counted as one. The demon summoner was also loyalist. We've got weekly quests. We've got collect missives. Sometimes they will drop a little like information packet and deliver these supplies. So that's it. You don't necessarily need to see that, although we can see a little bit of the terrain. So maybe I'll just run around and see if we see any more demon summoners while you kind of appreciate, hopefully, some of the coolness of this. And the other thing is, you know, just Drow with like demons everywhere. And that's sort of a staple, even in the very original Drow series that were around. Like the D1 to 3 original adventures of Dungeons and Dragons that really brought the Drow into kind of common knowledge. Those would add these kinds of elements of demons there and Driders and and the idea was really that they were kind of like corrupt, right? They were summoning fell powers. This is the Drow kind of doing things that, you know, one should not do. This one summoned a greater Hezro. It's a little far away to attack me, and I've pinned it in place, so my companion Regis can take it down. And yeah, it's a pretty neat, you know, it's a complex kind of area. Basically has some like straightaway thoroughfares that go through, but then a lot of weaving in between. And so you can really do a lot of kind of moving around, seeing different types of terrain while looking for these summoners, which makes it very cool to kind of just be moving around like, oh, here's one. You know, ideally you fight the summoner just on their own, not with a whole bunch of other things. That is hard to do, but, you know, we will do our best. With some characters, if you get attacked fast enough, they don't get to pull the summoning off, or if you can control them, like my wizard can freeze them and immobilize them and things like that, then the demon never even shows up, and you just take down the Drow summoner. We will rush past these folks here. Yeah, you're just gonna see, the cool, really cool kind of setup here of what this is like, and we'll see later. We'll end up going more towards this border here, which is called the Clawrift, and they'll show us that later. It's not where the Drow summoners are, but we'll see more of that, later on as we sort of explore that area, which is kind of cool. Sometimes there's a big heroic encounter in this area involving spiders, which is another cool kind of theme, right? This whole area full of spiders when the heroic encounter is up. And yeah, just really neat, right? I mean, just this really to me feels totally like the Drow cities that are described in all kinds of source books from different editions, where you are just kind of approaching the city through. I mean, it feels like you could just head off and end up, down in the tunnels away from the city, and maybe some guard post, and then like it would be just Drow tunnels. So I think that's really neat, and just the way the architecture really nicely moves from sort of quasi-natural, quasi-cavern to all set up. Like, that's really cool. These guard posts. It feels very convincing, I think, whereas it's so easy for it to not be that way. Very cool. We find another of the Drow summoners, so we're going to complete this quest. So that's one down. So we got a little tour of sorts. I'll do one more piece, just because there's a nice, actually, one thing that's kind of fun is to do the to go see what is it called? There's a big sort of central area that it would be worth showing. Let me swing by here. Guard post. So there's this central area here. It currently has a heroic encounter, so I can't kind of go in, but it's really neat. You come around here, and there's a heroic encounter, but look at that cool hall in there. I mean, just really neat looking. So maybe if we do the heroic encounter at some point, I'll show it to you. But there are fewer people doing that. This is really neat. This fountain is really pretty, and there is a little viewing port here. So when you interact with it, you get a kind of cool look of the thoroughfare, one of the thoroughfares in there. Really neat, right? And the clock in the background where the School of Sorcery is. That's really neat, where all the mages attend. Super cool. I absolutely dig that. There is another of these observational things. So maybe I'll very quickly run down this main thoroughfare, show you that, and we'll go to one other of those sort of eye orb things that you can look at and get another nice sweeping view. And then we'll just do quests later. You don't have to watch me do that, but you might appreciate this. Just really cool looking vistas. I mean, look at that. I love the archways that are there and here. Just look really big. This uses all kinds of elements of art that appear in different books over the years, in sort of establishing what a Drow place is like. Let me see. I forget now which way I go. Let me see the map if I can figure it out. It's one of these ways. Maybe it's this way. Let's try it. Yeah, okay. I don't recall if I did this the other day. I don't think I did, but neat kind of view down the streets. I think it's really sweet. Love it, love it, love it. Very cool. Yeah. I mean, to me, that's really inspiring, right? Makes me want to write up a Drow adventure that everybody would go through in my group. But yeah, I'll do the rest of these quests, and we will talk in a bit. All right, here we are. We're turning in our various quests. Support among the common folk continues to rise. Lolth wants her loyal minions. We will send them to meet her. Yeah, I'm not sure that's how the afterlife works with Lolth, but okay. Brothers and sisters save Blaspheme warriors. So there's some warriors kind of tied up and we have to save them. Take down loyalist propaganda. So there are some signs that are theoretically sort of saying things that are calling us unjust and unworthy. So we will take down those signs. And then we're going to go check in here with Jarlaxle. And he Tells us that the patrols will be changed pretty soon, but hey, we've got the upper hand. And the information we collected from all the little missives we picked up will keep us ahead of them for now, but information battle never ends, very much like what we'd expect from the Master Spy here. And then we get to light explosives at guard posts. That one's kind of fun. So we want to take down the guard posts by blowing them up. You know, there's the don't start war kind of thing. And then kill a bunch of demons. I told you that one would come up. So let's quickly do the one where we go to the guard post, because that one's kind of neat. And I should say that there's this whole other area over here, which is kind of surprising that they, you know, add this kind of secondary area here, where you can just kind of see like, oh, okay, there's, you know, some vendor merchants and stuff. I guess for folks who don't have the ability to travel around easily, it's something, but you have to walk around so much that I think that it would actually be just as easy to not come here and go somewhere else. But anyway, that's there. Speaking of taking a while to go somewhere, I will just map travel to the district, and we'll go to this area so that we can do that whole bombing evil kind of thing. In fact, here's some guard posts right here. So some of the guard posts, not all of them, like that one doesn't have it, but this one, you can try to kind of approach cautiously and just sort of light the explosives. I guess the idea is we're putting them there, because that would be weird. And then it'll blow up. Boom! But everybody inside is fine. They're all still there. And hey, we can just light another explosive. Video game quests. You always make me crack up. Yeah, that's how it goes. So you get to do a bunch of those. We kind of, you know, run around and find guard posts and do that. And then our other quests are what? Killing demons, and taking down the loyalist propaganda. So, you know, it's fine. You know, so killing demons, you kind of can go and be like, okay, there are a bunch of demons. Let's go here. And we kind of, you know, you're bad, demons. Down you go. I think that in general, my least favorite type of quest is especially when it comes to video games, is the kill X of something, right? Take down 20 demons, orcs, goblins, kobolds, whatever. There's so many quests like that in any kind of video game, and this video game is no exception. And I think it's particularly bad in a video game because their number doesn't decrease, right? If I sit here for 2 minutes in this kind of a game, monsters are going to show up again. So it's very obvious to me as a player, I have not decreased their numbers one bit, right? Like what I did didn't matter. And that's sort of a bad feeling. You know, maybe in a role-playing game, but then it really, honestly, in a role-playing game, it feels even more like just murderize things, assassinate things. And usually the scope of stories we are telling in a role-playing game means that taking down a few guards, a guard post, it doesn't matter, right? Like what do we think's going to happen when I blow up this guard post? One, sure, they're going to come out and try. I mean, this is real world. They would probably beat the populace until they found us. But also, like, they'll just bring in more guards. Like, this is a Lolth city full of guards. Like, this is such a weird story. And what works really well in role-playing games is to say things like, we've got to cause a distraction while this really important thing happens. Players can buy into that, right? Like, okay, you know, we're going to, at great risk, go do this. And you can set up the whole scene so it's cool. It's not just blow it up. It's easy, but it's kind of interesting, right? That's when it really gets a little something to it, and the story is, you know, far more compelling. I need to blow up one more, but not there. Yeah, so that's it. I've got to go save some warriors. Actually, saving warriors might be, well, it says in the other district. So maybe I'll go to the other district and show an example of taking down the missive. It's a little bit kind of ho-hum, but yeah, another, I think this is kind of neat. They like, you know, apparently are moving things with balloons here. I don't recall if that's a thing in lore that they use, sort of hot air balloons to lift things around. It's entirely possible, but I don't recall that. So, you know, you can see that nice transition here. It feels totally different. So here's an example of we can come in and fight these folks here. I'll try to put a quick end to them. With the help of my Pegasus that I summon and bring in. And then you can see there's a Blaspheme warrior who's tied up. And I can untie them, and hey, huzzah, victory. I have to do some number of them. 5 more of those I have to save. And here's the other type of quest. So I can take down some more of these guys, fight these folks. Bop. Ooh, arrow to the face. And I pick up my loots, and you can see there's a little sign here, and I take down the propaganda. All right, so that makes me feel good. Information warfare, and that's the concept. So I'm going to go through here, and I'm going to take down some more propaganda and defeat more foes and that kind of good stuff. So I'll see you in a bit. So I'm actually still doing those quests, but I ended up kind of just going along this route that took me to what is actually the Clawrift, and I thought I'd show that off. It's a really nice detail to add this here. So you can see there's sort of this vertical band along the side, and it just really shows the three-dimensionality of the Underdark. It's not just like a tunnel under the ground. These areas underground are vast caverns with many different layers. And I credit the work that was done in some of the original Advanced Dungeons & Dragons books to really just sort of talk about how diverse the Underdark could be. And it used a lot of isomorphic, where they're three-dimensional maps, and just looks so good at showing the kind of size, the kind of side view of how these locations look. And so you can see, just I'm looking here like across this huge chasm, and there are other stalagmites on the other side and stalactites. Really very cool. And I can kind of traverse along the side here. I don't know if I can fall or not, but I'm not going to try right now because I don't remember where I'll spawn. It might be far away. And there can be some neat little monsters in certain areas. Like there's one that shows up here, but it's gone. Someone has taken it down. And then we'll also get a nice view. So you get some more demons there as we get into kind of a demonic area. But you can see the ruins here, and later we're going to get some little more story about how these kinds of ruins can happen. But one of the nice things is actually we can approach from over here and get the last of the orbs that's in this section. I want to not fall down there. So we can kind of jump up here and look at it and get this cool view of the Clawrift. Really neat. So the camera can kind of take us in places that we can't actually walk to, which I like when it does that. And you can see here the ruins here of something. Oh, and also a heroic encounter that's going on, which is where the Illithids are trying to kind of protect a brain pool. So yeah, I thought that was neat and very cool. We'll end up in this place later, and this is another spot where there can be, I think, a beholder here. There's a rust monster you can fight, various other kind of special creatures. So we'll see that all later. So no one's actually doing this heroic encounter, but you can see how here I gotta run away. For this heroic encounter, which is called Ceramorphosis, tying off the Baldur's Gate 3 video game, tying off of the decor that we saw when we did our previous Underdark video, where we went into, what was it called? I can't even remember now. When we went into the Whispering Caverns. And that whole area that was involving the Illithids and the Far Realm, right? We see all those artistic influences here, and this creature from Spelljammer, which looks like a big sort of snake, but is all psionic in nature. So that's kind of fun. So yeah, kind of cool that that's just sort of tucked in there. You just kind of don't see it except for a little glow, and then you realize what it is. And that's it. So yeah, so here I am just back to the task of freeing these warriors. I have 5 of them, 1 more to go, and then we'll go in to turn it in.